Foundations of Planning. That's our chapter 5. So we'll go quickly to the learning objectives for today. We'll have to discuss the nature and purposes of planning. Why do we need planning and what actually is the process of planning? And we'll have a little discussion on what managers do in terms of planning for the strategy of the organization. And because we're talking of strategy, we go through the process of strategic management and what do we do first, what do we do next, what do we do the third thing. So the entire process of strategic management, very important. I'm sure all of you will be in that position someday where you have to plan for your either department, your business, or maybe at the corporate level, you will eventually be a CEO and you'll be part of that, creating that strategic plan for the entire organization. Strategies and plans at the top level can be at the corporate level for the entire organization or for in specific to each of their businesses, or sometimes each business has several departments. So strategies can be there at the department level, and towards the bottom, strategies can be operational strategies. When you're implementing something, you're interacting with customers. So strategies or strategic management or planning is at different levels: corporate level, different businesses level. Each business has several departments at department level, maybe at a group level or team level, and eventually at the operational level. So we'll discuss that as we progress through our slides. And the third objective is compare and contrast approaches to goal setting. And why is goal setting and planning so important? They're intertwined and extremely important, both individually or in the organization context. Planning is very important. Goal setting is extremely important. And what are the contemporary issues in planning? That's the last learning objective for today's chapter. So the first objective is here, discuss the nature and purpose of planning. So planning is basically a primary management function. So we actually, in our previous classes, we discussed 4 different management functions: planning, organizing, directing, and reporting or controlling. So here is the first function that we are discussing. And I'm sure because you're doing this particular assignment, the project itself, you must have determined a particular company, and you're supposed to choose 4 functions. You can choose any of the functions: HR, marketing, finance. These can be other functions, but there is planning in everything. If you take HR, there is planning in HR. If you take finance, there is financial planning. If you take marketing, there is marketing planning and planning the marketing mix and stuff like that. So planning is essential for every function or every activity that managers do. So why do we have to plan is the next question, I believe. So let's go to the next question. The reasons for planning. The first reason is we want some direction. We need to know where we are going as an organization. That's why we need to plan for the company. We need to plan for the future. If we don't have a plan, we're not going to go anywhere. All our efforts, all our resources are going to get utilized in the wrong directions. We're not going to achieve anything. All of us are smart people. We have access to certain resources, and we know those resources are limited. So we better make optimal use of those resources in ways that get us to where we want to find ourselves in the next 5 years or the next 10 years. So plans definitely provide a sense of direction. And if you look at setting the standards to facilitate control, now, unless you plan, you have nothing to control on. So if I say, I plan to have at least 10% increase in my revenues compared to last year at the same time or the last quarter. So I have a plan and I want to check if I achieve those plans. If I want to cut costs by say 5% this particular quarter, because every year is considered as 4 quarters: Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. You break down a year, 12 months, into 4 quarters, each quarter having 3 months. You might have plans that roll. Quarter 1, you plan something, you're not able to achieve those plans, you have controlling measures, you take some remedial action, you change your strategies, you might change your approach. Hopefully you'll achieve that in the next 3 months, which is the second quarter, or make some more adjustments in second quarter so that you can get closer to your goals or whatever plans that you've set forth for your own company, and check whether you're achieving them in quarter 3. So it's a very short-termish kind of planning that I'm talking of. I think We got to have certain short-term plans as much as organizations want to have long-term plans. Because of the pandemic, though you might have a long-term plan in the COVID situation and the crisis that's going on, you might want to also have a very close look at your short-term plans. Set standards and measure your actual performance of the company. Then take feedback, take data from people, collect reports from everyone, and see if you're getting there near your goals that you want to achieve. If you're not able to achieve it, or there's small little changes and tweaks that you have to do in your approaches or in your actions that gets you closer to those goals that you set for yourself. So unless you plan and create standards that you want to achieve, there's nothing that you're measuring yourself against, and there's nothing that you're doing to make sure you're in control, you're in charge. And as I was telling you, resources are minimal. Organizations don't have unlimited resources. So you want to maximize the utilization of resources and minimize the wastage or redundancy. You don't want the same set of people doing the same thing. And because effort and time is wasted, you don't want them to use resources doing the same thing. Again, resources are limited. So planning really, really helps. We know who is doing what. We know which department is trying to accomplish what. And these goals are clearly set. Everybody knows those key performance indicators. And that's why it minimizes waste. It minimizes time taken to achieve a task or achieve a goal. And it also minimizes utilization of resources. I can't say minimize. We know how to optimally utilize resources. That's another reason why planning is such an integral aspect of every manager's job, every supervisor's job, every worker's job. They, at their own level, they need to have a plan. And the last one is reduce the impact of change. There are certain things that we can control. There are certain things that we cannot control in organizational context. Things that when we can control, we should be able to control them. And that's where planning really helps. And sometimes you plan for a crisis situation. You're anticipating that the COVID situation might get worse or might get better, but then you have two plans or three plans, a plan A, plan B, a plan C, and say, as things change, as things emerge, not just in the United States, but as things emerge across the globe, how are we going to change our plans? Are we going to stick with plan A? If things change and it change for the better, can we execute our plan B? If things go really bad, really worse, can we bring in our plan C? That's where you're having multiple scenarios. You have an optimistic scenario, you have a pessimistic scenario, you might have a realistic scenario, and you have separate plans for each of these situations or scenarios or contexts. That's you're making yourself as much prepared for things that you're not 100% sure. And even in spite of planning, you cannot simply offset all the uncertainty, but at least you reduce the impact of any change. You're very prepared for that kind of changes. Critical issues in planning. Now, you can't overplan too much. I mean, that might create a lot of rigidity in the organization. There's no flexibility left because you say you have to go by the plan. And if plans are not having some kind of flexibility, you're stuck. So you must have some wiggle space. You need some elbow space where you can make those little small adjustments to your plan. And that's very important. Otherwise, if there is too much excessive emphasis on executing, implementing plans, it might become very rigid. You can't replace intuition and creativity. Sometimes planning takes away those two important things. Intuition is very important, because over a period of time, we develop a large amount of experience, which is very unique to us. And because of that experience and having seen life and having gone through similar situations in the past, we have a strong sense of intuition. And I'm sure you agree, all of us are very, very creative. We are unique, we are special in our own way. So there are things that these plans do not consider. And therefore, sometimes that can become a disadvantage because plans are they're written in stone in certain cases. And that means individuals cannot think outside the box. And even if they can, they're not permitted to use those creative ideas at the workplace. So that can become a negative thing of excessive planning and rigidity that planning can bring in. But having no plans is extremely dangerous. If you don't have a plan for your career, imagine what will happen to you. So I might actually, stop here for a second and ask one of you to tell me what are your career plans and what is that you think for the next 3 years for yourself or after you graduate? What are your plans? Can anybody volunteer to tell what your career plans are quickly?
I'm still in the planning process, but what you call it? I was actually just working on some stuff today, gathering some source information on potential professions after I obtain my degree and what you call it. So yeah, I'm gonna try and get my degree done within the next 12 months or so, 15 months rather. And that's really the only plan that's concrete that I have now. I have a list of say careers that I would like to do, and I'm gonna look into which options are the most viable and which ones are the most are the I'm just gonna weigh all the factors involved with that, and I'm looking into a lot of different avenues in terms of it's really a short-term plan, not much of a long-term plan, but I have a lot of short-term plans going on. Step one, step two, a lot of action.
Yeah, I think what you've done a good job in trying to figure out different career options and probable job opportunities. But I would suggest you look at jobs that are emerging that will stay in the future and which have, say, a long-term potential of growing and becoming better and more challenging. So if you look at those kind of jobs and figure out the skill sets that are required to find you such a job, I think those are the skill sets that you need to pursue beyond just
Yes,
graduating.
sir.
Yeah, beyond just graduating, you might want to have yourself credentialed in those skills, and that just improves your employability, and it'll definitely
Absolutely.
help.
That's part of the framework in my decision making going forward.
Okay.
I have a very large planned out framework that I literally just sat down with today. Um,
Wow.
and there's a lot of factors involved. I'm more in the information gathering process right now,
Okay,
and
that's
it'll
cool.
be
I'm
done
happy
soon.
you're doing that, Anthony. And I'm just curious to ask you one more question, Anthony. Is like in your plan, do you have other countries, other regions, which factor into your plan where you would want to explore possible career opportunities?
I'm not. I totally would. That would be a dream, but due to extenuating circumstances, I mean, I have two kids that live here in New York. I'm not with the mother, so that's an extenuating thing where we have to. I would like to be around ish, relatively speaking. So I'm more looking at not necessarily different regions, but different East Coast locations. That would be something that's going to be factored in. But yeah, not necessarily international. It's a little too far. Even different regions, I'm kind of half against. Maybe the Midwest, like Chicago,
Hmm.
Northern Midwest, Middle states. But
Okay.
other than that, that's what I got so far.
Yeah, I appreciate that you have those concerns for your kids and they are very important to you as family. They come first. I completely understand, appreciate that. Not so much challenging in my situation. I've had the good fortune of, staying together with my wife, and then I have two kids as well. And but trust me, Anthony, the way I looked at life was my kids don't drive my decisions. I mean, they are a concern. I want them to be happy, be properly educated, live a good life as they grow up and groom themselves. That's important. But somehow I've always thought, you go along and they chug along, and then even those experiences actually make them more adaptable, and then they begin to realize life's difficulties and practical challenges. So the fact that I moved from India to Jordan in Amman, and then I moved to UAE, another country. I moved to Abu Dhabi, and then I moved to US. Not for a split second, I thought about how will my kids adjust, and then how would I adjust? Because I've always thought, as you move along and as you think that the world is yours, it's a stage that all belongs to you. I'm not necessarily saying that that's the best option for you, that you have to think that way, but I would not rule it out. That's what I'm trying to suggest. Yeah.
Understood. That's a really good point. Very good point.
Yeah, because you sometimes never know an avenue that opens up which is good for you and your kids as well. So might as well think about it. The reason I say that
That's
is
definitely
because
something. Yeah, that's definitely something I'll look into. I guess I never really thought of it from that perspective.
Yeah, the reason I
I
say that,
spent.
Anthony, is, I'll give you a personal story why I say it. I've seen a lot
Mhm.
of Americans work in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and you have plenty of American schools, proper American schools, and these companies in Dubai and Abu Dhabi are they're so well-paid jobs for the same qualifications, credentials that you carry. You might as well get a 40, 50% more than what you can expect or dream of getting in the tri-state. And then the schooling is free. They support schooling. They give you medical insurance and benefits, which is like 10 times better than the best medical insurance that you can get in New York.
Yes, sir.
And they give you furnished house, and they give you that kind of facilities, which you can't even imagine that you could ask for, entry level, middle level management jobs here. So because I live like a king there, and I come here, I'm like a pauper. You got me?
Yeah.
So I'm being very bluntly honest. Like I've loved New
Yes, sir.
York.
Yes,
I
sir.
love US. I love see that's the part of me. I embrace the good things as much as I can tell you factual information. Reality check should be there. So if I like New York, if I like the people here, if I like US as a free country, and the great place it is, I'm truly grateful that I've got an opportunity to work here. But I have to tell you that you being an American citizen, probably you should explore as much as I did explore and come all the way to New York. You should also think, okay, let me go and explore things. And who knows, I might find a home away from home, which is good for me and my kids as well. So just be open to that kind of thought process. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's something that would vary my search criteria a lot, and it might open me up to some new ideas, some different ideas.
Yeah,
I
don't
appreciate it.
restrict yourself,
Yes,
Anthony.
sir.
You
That's
never know.
definitely a
You're
different
ready to
avenue.
fly, and you should always be ready to fly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So formal planning and organizational performance. I mean, you got to plan. Otherwise, say, imagine what the pandemic did to our companies, our businesses these days. Their revenue streams are hurting. The sales are hurting. The number of customers who have deflected, stopped, or postponed their purchases, that has increased. And when your revenues hurt, when the number of customers coming back, returning customers are decreasing, your profits are going to get bad. So do you have a plan to keep up those revenue streams? Can you create new revenue streams? Can you create new formats of doing business? Can you generate as much as profits, if not higher profits, pre-COVID? Higher return on assets. You use the same assets, whether it be physical assets, equipment, machinery, or your existing human capital. All of them are assets. Can you use them better? Can you provide work for them? Can you give them opportunities to generate more revenues, attract more customers? Can you do, you have to plan. And improved quality of planning really, really helps you achieve those higher profits, greater number of customers, better revenue streams. You're generating revenue from one particular product or product line. Can you introduce another product line because of COVID, which is more convenient, which customers prefer because of their changed lifestyles? I sometimes am wondering, never step out of my home. I just walk out just casually, wander and have a walk because you just stuck, you feel this claustrophobic feeling if you're just stuck at home. So probably my preferences, my tastes, my lifestyles will determine the kind of consumption patterns I have, whether it's for products or for services or for content consumption. You have to think. And as companies, if you don't plan, we're not sure how long this pandemic will stay, how many new strains will come up, and so we better be prepared, and that being prepared is what is part of planning and appropriate implementation. It's not just having the best plan, you got to walk your talk. I mean, you talk, and talk plans and meetings, and you have the best plan, but you need to walk the talk. So you need to implement it. So that's the key. That shows a lot of leadership qualities. If you're able to mobilize that kind of support from your team members, if you can inspire that collective aspirations among people, even during tough times, that shows your leadership qualities. And then you give yourself a fair chance that your plans can be implemented really well. And that's where I would think each of you is a leader. You got to think outside the box. You got to make use of every opportunity out there. If you don't see opportunities, how can you create those opportunities? How can you create those limitless possibilities? That's when you lead yourself. Once you know how to lead yourself, people like me will follow you. You're a great leader. We want to listen to you. You're our role model. We're happy to work with you. That's how you attract the right team to work with you. And that's what happens in organizations. You find those special talent who are good at inspiring others, who know how to plan and who know how to execute those plans and implement those plans. So formal planning and organizational performance, they're definitely related. The better the plans that you have, the more detailed the plans you have, the better prepared you are, and you're not taken by surprises. You can't be 100% certain. There's no way, because there's so many things beyond our control. But better planning means you have a recourse. You can take a detour and you can go back and quickly come back with a new approach, because there's so much of planning that's gone into what you're planning to do. Okay. So yeah, we talked about criticisms that we might have, higher profits. Yeah, that's done. The next learning objective for today's class, very important, strategic management process. This is what organizations do. Every big organization, whether it's a medium size or a large organizations, what do they do? They're giving examples of IBM and what IBM did, Taco Bell, what did Taco Bell, McDonald's do. If you look at McDonald's, they're doing even good, even in spite of the COVID. That means they have a strategic management process that's working for them, because it has an impact on organizational performance. It can help you manage those situations, changing situations. It guides people in the organization, managers, to examine relevant factors outside of the organization, examine your own strengths and weaknesses of your company, and then match your strategies to leverage those strengths of yours and overcome any threats that you have from the external environment, and seize the opportunities that you should be utilizing that present themselves from time to time. So again, Anthony, going back to your planning process, you never know what opportunities are there out there. So if you just expand your search, and if you expand your chances of finding a career for your future, you never know how many. I'm open to going to Germany. I'm in New York working with New York Tech, and crazy Prabhakar is applying to a job in Germany. I applied in Spain, I applied in France. I'm applying everywhere. It's not necessary I can take my
It's
position for
funny because
granted. Yeah, why
yeah, it's
not?
just funny. The main takeaway. Oh, I'm sorry. No. Go, go, go. No, you're good. You're good. Keep it rolling.
Yeah, that's how, in my master's class, one of those classes I was talking, I've always dreamt of working in one of those Nordic states. And, one of my students was from Finland. She said, "Sir, you should come to Finland. They'll love you." And I'm like, wow, I never realized that I have a student from Finland sitting in my class, and I'm speaking about my dream of one day working in the Nordic states. So you kind of, and she was saying, if you come there, they'll love you. The way you teach, the way you converse, and the way you actually present your opinion, they are going to love you. And I was like, wow, there's a measure of success even before I reached Finland, because there is a person from Finland who's saying I have a good chance of succeeding. So I would always consider every possible opportunity. I'm not restricted to one country, one region, never ever. Steps in the strategic management process. This is an important thing, even for your exam. Possibly, I might ask you a question on this. What are the steps in the strategic management process? So, the first one, identify your company's mission, goals, and strategies. Now, mission, what does the company stand for? What does your organization actually stand for? What is it that defines your organization? That's a mission. Who are we? If you answer the question, who are we as a company, you have a very good chance of writing your own mission. What do we stand for? What is the purpose of our existence? It's a statement of purpose. That's a mission statement. I think all of us personally, individually, we should have a mission, a personal mission statement. Not a bad thing to do. Please, I'm not giving it like a homework or like an assignment, but when you have time, guys, when you go home and you're not having classes, just think about it. Can I have a personal mission statement? Who am I? What defines me? I'm sure all of us are different and unique in our own way. But what defines you? What should you be remembered for? Long after you've gone, what should people talk about you? Your community, your family, the company that you work, the professionals that you have interacted with, what should they be speaking good things about you? So, you're beginning with the end in mind. And that way you can write your personal mission statement. This is critical for every organization, who we are. If we are very clear about who we are and what we do, and what's the purpose of us being out there, then we are very very clear of how we can define our goals, how we can define our vision, what we want to, where do we want to go in the next 5 years. Vision is where do we see ourselves in the future, in the next 5 years or in the next 10 years. That's a vision. Right now we are here, but where do we want to go in the next 5 years? Where do we want to go in the next 10 years? If we can define that with a lot of detail, that's vision. And then to achieve those that vision in the next 5 years or the next 10 years, what are our goals? Short-term goals, long-term goals. What credentials? What qualifications? What internships? What job opportunities? What special unique talents that I might want to showcase? So what are the short-term goals individually? What are the short-term goals for companies? How many new products? How many new customers? Would I want to get into a new region and sell my product? What are the goals for marketing? What are the goals for finance? What are the goals for quality control? We're producing this quality. Can we improve the quality? That might be a goal. We're producing X number of products, different products. Can we add new products to our line? That might be new goals. We're operating in 30 states in the US. Can we operate in all the 50 states in the US? That's a goal. Can we, open more locations? Should we, strategically close some locations? Maybe goal. Can we cut costs by 5%? Maybe a goal. So you might have goals which are financial implications. We might have goals which are strategic. Strategic goals are those goals where we want to expand, we want to consolidate. Certain raw material we use, right? As an organization, we use raw material to produce a product. Can we produce our own raw material? If you go to, say, Costco, and if you go to, say, BJ's, and if you go to any of these, marketplaces, they have their own brands, correct? Which company sells Kirkland?
Costco.
Costco, I guess. Yeah. If you go to Costco, everything you'll see Kirkland juice, Kirkland this, Kirkland that, Kirkland this. Smart thing. They sell other products, they sell other brands, but they have their own brand. Smart way of doing it because they know it's cost effective. They have the money. Why not produce it at a lower cost rather than simply buying it from someone and selling it there? But they want to give you a range of products because it's a shopping experience. Imagine you find only Kirkland and Costco, you'll not like it. You want to see other things, but Kirkland is a good product. So, I find it fascinating. That's what we call as backward integration. You're actually doing some of your own supplies. Backward integration. That's a strategy. That's a strategic goal. You want to get some X percentage of profit. It's a financial goal. If you want to increase your revenues by X percent, a financial goal. But strategic goal is, can I produce some of my own supplies? Can I do my own distribution? I produce the product, but I don't depend on Best Buy for doing distribution of my product. I'll distribute it myself. I'll create my own outlets. That's forward integration. I talked about supply, backward integration. If you do distribution, it's called forward. If you do supplies, you manufacture some of your own products, components, backward integration. This is what we call as vertical integration. That's a strategic goal. So I'm just giving you examples. They'll come again in the slides. I will talk about it. So the first step, define who you are, what defines you as a company. That's your mission. Determine what you want to see your company do in the next 5 years, 10 years. That's your vision. You define some values. We stand for quality. We stand for, prompt service. Or we stand for fair and just practices. We stand for equal employment opportunities for everyone. I don't know. You can name 4 values that you stand for as a company. And then eventually you determine your goals, short-term goals, long-term goals, or financial goals and strategic goals. Now, once you know what you want to do, the next point is create how are you going to get there? Strategy is how. Now, Anthony said he wants to do this, he wants to do that, and he wants to achieve this. But how? If he's able to answer the question how, that means he knows the strategy. And again, I will not be in a position to tell Anthony how. He has to determine because these are his goals. He determines his strategies. He determines his how to get there. He knows what he wants to do in the next 5 years, next 10 years. How to do it, he knows the best way. He'll find it out. He's smart enough to find out how he's going to achieve those goals. Likewise, for a company, they determine what they want to do, the goals, and how to get there is the strategy. Please, guys, understand strategy is such an important thing. Once you reach my age and you're in the middle level management, you reach the top level management eventually, all that you will do is planning. All that you will do is talking about strategy. So the better you understand strategy and how important it is and the process of strategy and creating the strategy and implementing strategy, the better it is for you. Everyone requires it. You're a technical guy, you're a software engineer, you're a physicist, you're whatever scientist, some point of time you need management. Now, first step is this, external analysis. Look at what is happening around you. Look at opportunities and look at the threats. I don't want to pick and choose a company or an industry where I have too many competitors. Even if I have too many competitors, is there something that they're not doing good? Do I have certain strengths where I can fill that particular need of customers? Is there an opportunity here? You can search. That's when you're doing a proper external analysis. That's the key. Okay. So O and T, opportunities and threats. Again, internal analysis is look at your own company's strengths. Where are you strong? Do I have technology? Do I have research and development department? Do I have smart people? What do I have? Do I have access to new patents? Do I have like 3M an example? 3M company has 100,000 plus patents, always creating new ways of doing things, new products and new technologies. It's a very innovative company. That's a strength. And 3M has teams, small teams, hundreds and thousands of teams working on new product ideas. That's a strength. 3M has people who will come from different fields of expertise, from different areas, from biology, from molecular biology, from management, from accounting, from finance, from technology side, from physics, from chemistry. They're all people from every particular field. That's a strength. Teamwork is a strength of 3M. And their number of products, there's hundreds of products that they have. Go to their 3M website, you will find hundreds of products. That's a strength. There's no place that you cannot find 3M. They're there on your laptop. Their 3M elements are there on your mobile phones, on your cars, in adhesives that are there across in several appliances, in abrasives that are used everywhere, in carpenting and plumbing. You name it, they're there. Tools, 3M is never away from you. You don't see it, but it's there. In glass, in plastics, in polymers, you name it. In automotives, everywhere 3M is there. Those guys are all over the place. See, computers and TVs and appliances, they're only at one place, but 3M is everywhere. Whether we notice them or don't notice them. That's a strength. I don't know how many weaknesses 3M has. Very, very difficult for me to spot 3M weaknesses. Maybe they have some, but for which we need to go inside, talk to people, figure out some weaknesses. That will be a great opportunity for you to explore any weaknesses 3M has. 3M is
They
a
just
great
got sued for their earplugs that they sold to the army. They literally just got sued.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, it's such an amazing company. I keep thinking, wow, how nice it would be if I had got a chance to work with 3M, me personally. I'm crazy. I'm a professor from say 25 years, but I keep thinking, wow, 3M is one company I would want to explore. Even if they gave me a entry level job, I should go. That's how I think. So maybe I'll work with them someday because I know how good their organizational culture is. So you have to look at your strengths and weaknesses as a company and keep looking at for opportunities to improve quality, to introduce new products, to enter new markets. These are opportunities. I've seen 3M does, acrylic coating for the cars, and in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi, 3M has hundreds of outlets. So when you go to buy Starbucks coffee, and if you have a very expensive car, and because in Abu Dhabi they have sandstorms, this is a desert, and they have frequent sandstorms. You don't want the sandstorms to ruin your car, so you can just drive in. 3M is there, and Starbucks is next door. You leave your 3M car, I mean, your car at 3M, they'll coat your entire car. It's an acrylic coat which you cannot even see. You can't see that there is a coating on the car, but it protects your car against scratches, against dust, and against the sandstorms. And all that happens before you buy your coffee and have your Starbucks coffee. 30 minutes, it's done. So I'm like, wow, look at 3M. That's how they are. They are in every single place and location possible. They are grabbing those options. They create those opportunities. I don't see threats for 3M because their products, it's funny. I bought, a varnish for wooden furniture and tables and chairs and doors, wooden doors and wooden tables and windows. I bought varnish from 3M product, and I bought a 3M brush. You won't believe it. I just bought one brush and a ton of varnish. I painted all my windows and doors in India in my home with one single brush. And I'm thinking the brush will ruin. It'll be gone and I have to buy some replacement. Otherwise, how am I going to use it? Trust me, I painted the whole building, all the tables, all the doors. It took me a week, and the brush that I used was intact because 3M products are such high quality. I don't see threats really. So if you can find some threats for 3M, it'll be fabulous. They'll love to hear from you. So I would think that's the first thing. SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis can be done for companies like 3M. SWOT analysis can be done for people like me. You can tell me, Prabhakar, these are your weaknesses. You might want to be aware of it. You might find ways that you want to overcome those weaknesses. You can tell me these are my strengths and these are the opportunities that you might want to grab. So these are all great things that you should know as individuals and as organizations. Once you know that, and once also you know where your mission is and your vision is, what goals you want to accomplish, formulate the strategies. Answer the question, how do we get customers? How do we retain customers? How do we increase profitability? How do we increase market share? How do we continue to innovate? How do we enter new markets? How do we consolidate our position? How do we diversify into other areas of business? How? The answer is how. That's when you create strategy. Very difficult, huh? We have all great plans, but we are not sure about how. Once you have that action plan, that's where you're answering the question, the strategy. Okay? If you have answered those hows, and that means you have all the bunch of strategies. Implement those strategies. Implementing strategy is very difficult because you need the right set of people. You need the resources available for those people to implement those strategies. You need the organizational systems, procedures, policies. You need reward systems, compensation. You need to motivate people. Unless you do that, and you need leadership to implement strategies. All these are necessary. Otherwise, strategies just are in the documents, in the files, but you don't know how to bring it forth and implement it. You need leadership. You need resources. You need organizational systems. You need reward systems. You need resource allocations. Make sure you give your people the right set of tools and resources and the kind of leadership that they deserve to implement strategies. You need to incentivize action. Why would they do something if there is no incentive to do it? Once you implemented it, the last part is control. Measure what you have achieved. Evaluate your results. If your performance is here and if your targets are here, is there a gap? That gap is called as discrepancy. That gap analysis has to be done. What's causing this gap? Your target is up, your actual performance for the company is low. What's causing this gap? Find out the reasons for those gaps and come back and tweak your strategy. Change your policies, change your people, change, training for the people, and make sure that the gap is reduced progressively. You reach your targets. It's not like 70% of the targets we want to get 80%, 90%, and 100%. Preferably, we want to do 120% of the target. Numbers matter, dear. Numbers matter. If you say, I'll study very hard, professor, I'm working very hard. How hard is hard for you? Hard, I'm working hard is a relative term. Tell me how hard. Are you getting all A's? Are you getting, some job interviews? Are you credentialed with other certifications? How many? Can you tell me, these things in numbers? If you can, that means you're on target. You're doing a great job. So I just tried to tell you how it can be used in companies, how it can be used at individual level. So identifying mission goals and strategies, that's what happens. Customers, who are our customers? Where does the firm compete geographically? Which markets will I want to work in? Survival, growth, profitability, I think I spoke about it. What are the firm's basic beliefs, values, ethical priorities, concern for reputation, public image, goodwill? What are kind of products will I manufacture? Will I introduce new products? Will I improve the quality of existing products? What technologies and new patterns will I create for myself? What is my self concept? What brings me, that uniqueness? What are my core competences? What makes my company special over the other companies? Concern for your employees, because if you don't have skilled people, you don't reward them enough, you don't recognize them enough, you're not going to get there. So I think we spoke about this. External is you study the competition, you study the environment, you look at the threats and opportunities. Internal, you look at your resources, capabilities, what you're very good at, what your company is an expert in. Look at your own strengths and weaknesses and make sure you use your strengths and overcome those weaknesses. You formulate those strategies. As I was saying previously, strategy formulation is at different levels. Corporate level, you know, 3M, for example, can have a corporate level strategy. It's an umbrella strategy. 3M has many businesses, several businesses in its umbrella. Each business can have its own strategy. Each business can be divided into functional departments: manufacturing, quality control, marketing and sales, finance. It could be these functions. Each function has its own strategy. And the next one is implement those strategies, whether they are corporate level strategies, different business level strategies, or different functional strategies. You implement the strategies. How do you implement the strategy? Have the right people, give them the resources, create organizational systems, incentivize action, reward them, recognize them, give them good leaders, people, good managers to manage them. You can implement the strategy. Evaluate the results. How successful have you been? What are the adjustments that you need to make? How can you reduce the gap between your actual performance and targets? That's the 6 steps in the process. Now, that's what I was saying. You can have corporate level strategy. 3M is here, different businesses, or 3 businesses in this case. Each business has functions: R&D, manufacturing, marketing, HR, finance. You can have more functions. That's how strategy works. Now we'll go off to different types of strategies. First one is called growth strategy. I'll stop for a second here. I want to ask you if you're getting it or am I too fast?
You're good.
Okay.
You're doing good.
Okay. So growth strategy. This is one type of strategy. And under that growth strategy, you have concentration, vertical integration, horizontal integration, and diversification. I'll just explain each of that with, say, possibly an example so that you understand. Concentration. Like, say, Procter and Gamble. This is a company that manufactures everything that you can think of, like all the cosmetics, household items and stuff. So if Procter and Gamble add more products in, say, the cosmetics and the soaps and other kind of shampoos and hand washes and sanitizers and all that stuff, if they're adding more and more variations and different kind of offerings under each of those categories, that's what we call as concentration. They're increasing the number of products in each category. And Procter and Gamble and Unilever, they keep doing it. Every time you go to these Costco or BJ's or Walmart or wherever you want to buy your shampoos and liquid soaps and sanitizers, you keep seeing new things. And if you look at the manufacturer, it's the same Unilever. New, lime flavor, this flavor, that fragrance, this, improved formula, for dandruff, for hair fall, for volume, what kind of stuff they do, because it's a concentration strategy. They're adding more number of products to each category. So that's what we call as concentration. Now we'll go to vertical integration. Vertical integration can be 2 types: backward integration, forward integration. Now, suppose Samsung manufactures mobile phones. That's their core product, one of their core product. Suppose they produce their own processor, that's backward integration. I think you understand that every mobile phone has a processor, right? If Samsung produces their own processors, it's called backward integration. I'm giving an exact real example because Samsung actually manufactures Exynos processor. All other mobile phones, they're using, some of them use Qualcomm, some of them use Snapdragon, but Samsung uses both. They use Snapdragon, some countries. In some countries, their mobile phones have their own processor called Exynos processor. It's a component that goes into mobile manufacturing. So Samsung is producing some of the components itself, and that's a backward integration because it's producing the supply of processors. Is that clear? Now, companies can also do forward integration. That means they can have their own distribution network. They can sell under the Samsung brand and a very clear, exclusive Samsung outlet. I'm sure you've seen in several shopping malls in the US, Samsung has its own outlet. Have you seen that? Like Apple has its own outlet, right? Apple stores are Apple stores. They belong to Apple. I mean, you can find Apple products in Best Buy, you can find Apple products in Walmart, but then Apple has some part of its distribution done by themselves, which is Apple stores. They're exclusive Apple stores, owned by Apple, staffed by Apple, and they sell only Apple products there. So that's distribution network. So that's forward integration. It's not the actual product. It's also selling and distributing and making the product available. That part is also done by the company. This is called forward integration. So if you do the supply, backward integration. If you do the distribution of your product, forward integration. Both together is called as vertical integration. Backward and forward comes under one thing called as vertical integration. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, then you have the next one called as horizontal integration. Now, horizontal integration is when one company buys or acquires or purchases another company. We call them as mergers and acquisitions. If you look at, I think the best thing could be, I could share Google's acquisitions. I don't know if I did that in the past, but it will not be a bad idea to show you that. Now, if a company buys other companies, that's called as horizontal, integration. They want to just expand and do fast and get to the market quickly. These are, you see my screen, right? Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Now, if you look at this, it's the parent company of Google is Alphabet. You know that, right? The parent company for Google is Alphabet. And if you look at Google's acquisitions, this is the list of acquisitions since 2001. And they talk about the company which they acquired, Usenet, United States. Web search engine, this is Outright, and this is United States. Pyra Labs in 2003. I will go 2003. These are the companies that were acquired by Google. 2004, 2005, and then 2006, 7. We go on and on. 9, 8, 9, 10, 10, 2010, 2011, 2012. They're acquiring in all countries, Ukraine, Canada, Spain, okay? They acquired in Israel, they acquired in France, Japan. These are the companies that Google bought. They like them, they feel that it'll add to the Google platform, they bought them. Horizontal, integration. They're adding horizontally. They're buying other companies. Look at how big Google is, huh? Look at the companies, 2014. We've not reached 20 or also 21, 16. Sweden, they've acquired a company in Sweden. India, Belarus, United Kingdom, again India, Germany. These are all companies. And 2021, January 14th, they acquired another company. December 14th, 2020, January 14th, the latest, Fitbit. So I just wanted to show you, this is all examples of horizontal integration. So I explained, then that's another growth strategy. Is it growth or not? It's definitely growth strategy because it's horizontal integration. Diversification. How many of you knew that Samsung is in the construction industry? Do you know that Samsung is in the construction industry?
Professor, I heard something about that. Did they have any part in building the Burj Khalifa?
Not in the Burj Khalifa, but they are doing construction in the western region in UAE. There is a nuclear power plant being built there, and Samsung is one of the companies that is working on that. They're part of the western region in United Arab Emirates. They're building a nuclear power plant, and Samsung is one of the company that's associated with it. That is what we call as unrelated diversification. It's very difficult for you to imagine how the hell is Samsung producing or in the construction business, but they are. This is unrelated diversification because they do not want to put all their eggs in one basket. And Samsung is in the medical business. They have their own hospitals. You know this, right? Is anyone aware that Samsung has its own hospital and they're in the medical business as well?
No.
Yeah, Samsung is. If you go to South Korea, they have many hospitals called Samsung Hospital. Can you believe that? So that's unrelated diversification. So if Apple is going from mobiles to tablets to computers to iPads to Apple Television to Apple Communications to Apple Software, iOS operating system, this is related diversification. They're all related. But if Apple now manufactures electric cars, that's unrelated diversification. You're getting me? So diversification can be two types. Related diversification, because it's all very related to each other. Unrelated diversification, Apple going into manufacturing electric cars. I think you're aware Apple is working on electric cars, right? Are you aware that Apple is invested into making an electric car?
Professor, I'm aware of that, but I don't think they've finalized who they want to do it with.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the fact that they're doing it is an example of unrelated diversification, okay? Like Fujifilm. Fujifilm is a Japanese company that manufactures cameras. They're invested in making COVID vaccine. Unrelated diversification. Fujifilm is a camera manufacturing company that's into COVID vaccine research. And that COVID vaccine research by Fujifilm, which is a Japanese company, is funded by the American government. Unrelated diversification. All these are growth into other areas, into other markets, into other products. These are all growth strategies. Let's come back to the next type of strategies called as stability and renewal strategies. Those strategies that want to focus on making the company strong in what they're already doing is called a stability strategy. We want to be stable. We want to keep our market share. We want to keep our existing customers. We want to keep the levels of revenue that we generate from our different revenue streams. We focused on keeping a stable kind of business. That's what we call as stability strategy. Renewal strategy are where we want to address certain performance issues. If our company is not doing great, if you're making some losses, if you're losing market share, we don't want to go down. We don't want our sales to continue to go down. We don't want our revenues and profits to go down continuously. We'll be out of business. So there you want to renew, you want to revitalize your company. And there is where you have two types of strategy called as retrenchment and turnaround. Problems that are small and can be fixed in the short term, you go for a retrenchment strategy. Suppose you remove some departments, you remove some locations. You want to cut costs. You want to reduce the number of employees that you have. This strategy can be termed as a retrenchment strategy. It's short term, it's for fixing problems in the short term, and you're taking measures for the short term. But if it's a company which is having a problem, which is like from the last 10 years, you're having issues, you don't know whether you want to keep it or sell that particular business, you go drastic. You take a big turnaround strategy. You give it one last effort to turn it around. You might change the product line. You might re-engineer your processes. You might do a lot of restructuring, financial restructuring, or organizational restructuring. And that strategy is to fix a long-term problem. And it's more into cost cutting, it's more into restructuring, and you want to give it one last ditch effort to see if that particular loss-making business can be turned around. That's why it's called a turnaround strategy. And then you have competitive advantage that you want to generate. How do companies get ahead of competition? How can we stay ahead of others? Guys, business is all about competition. This class has how many students? We have 21 students in this class right now. Why should I pick only Trevin? Or why should I, select only Nicole? Or why should I not select the rest of you? Why should I only pick, say, Sandy? Why should I choose you over the others? Because it's competitive. What you bring to the table. I have 3 jobs. All of you are applying. All of you are the same, New York Tech students, majors in business. You're all having good GPAs, assuming that. Why should I only select these 3? Because they bring to the table some core competences, unique abilities they're experts in. So it's important that you are expert in something. Okay, at least 2 or 3 things. Identify 2 or 3 things that you're really expert. That's why you call it as competence, and it's important for that particular business or job. And that's why it's a core competence. Likewise, organizations have to be good at something, very good at something. And how do they get good at doing something? They use those resources to get good at doing something. One of the strategy that Michael Porter, this is called Porter's competitive strategies. He gave 4 different, broad approaches. One is cost leadership. Highly efficient overhead administrative costs is minimized, does everything it can to cut costs, and products must be perceived as comparable in quality to those that are offered by rivals and at least acceptable by buyers. So Walmart, for example, I can give you the example of Walmart. They are into cost leadership. Everything that you get Walmart is much cheaper than, say, BJ's. Everything that you get in Walmart is kind of cheaper than what you get in Costco. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure.
Because Walmart is focused on cost leadership. How do they do it? Efficiency. They keep their overheads to a minimum. They buy in bulk and they sell in large volumes. Their efficiency is important. And that's why they can lower the prices. And that's why Walmart stores are always, having people to come in. If Walmart is doing really well, their strategy mostly is on cost leadership. Then there is a second strategy which talks about differentiation. How different are your products? How unique are they? Are they really good in terms of quality or design or features or functionality or durability? That's how differentiated you can be. Now, if I ask this class of students, what is that makes you stick with Apple? Can somebody tell me why do you stick with Apple?
I like iPhone more than Samsung, or
Why?
because of the camera.
Okay, so it's differentiated. The camera does great. Any other thing?
Their ecosystem.
Their ecosystem. And what else? Somebody should at least tell me design, because Apple, thinks that their design elements are really great. Does anybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Samsung person, so I don't want to talk on behalf of Apple. So if you are the best people, your generation loves Apple, right?
Only
Okay.
for the design. The functionality is better in Samsung, period.
Okay. Okay. So the design, it looks better. It seems like a finished, polished product. And somebody said ecosystem. Another person is saying camera and functionality of the camera itself. So this, I think, is a differentiated strategy. The operating system is, really good. It doesn't have bugs. It doesn't, hang up. Maybe the encryption is good. The security is good. The number of apps in their app store are much more than Android, Google Play. So there might be many things which differentiate Apple, and they're seamless. If you have the entire ecosystem, they're seamless. The functionality is great. All your passwords, all your data is secure, or whatever. So possible areas why you think Apple is so differentiated. That's the reason why you want to continue with Apple. Then there is something called as focus strategy, which is you're trying to serve a niche. You're going after a very small, narrow market segment. You're not trying to create a product for everyone. You're creating a product for a niche market, for a very narrow market itself. And that's why your price can be really high. Some companies follow that strategy. Quickly, before I run out of time, I just might want to show you another company. If I've not shown it before, I'll be happy. But if I have, and forgive me, I think I just want to show you this particular company as an example of niche market. Okay, thankfully I have it up there. I'll pull it up on the share screen. Have you seen this company here? It's called Gold Genie. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
They sell luxury products, including gold iPhone 12. So 24 karat gold iPhone 12 range, that's what they make. They're made in 24 karat gold. And this company is based out of London and Dubai. So just in case, guys, you're planning to buy your new iPhone, think about this. You have their 24 karat gold iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max, purely made in gold. Okay, they have a nice video that you can have a look at. And let's see what's the pricing, right? That's something that you might be interested in, right?
Yeah, that's kind of surprising.
Yeah, they have, it's 3,197 pounds. So you can go 512 GB. Let's see what happens. I'll go with gold. Yeah, that's what it says, 3,297 pounds, because pounds is much higher than US dollars. And they have it in rose gold, platinum, and gold. This is a niche. This is what we call as focus strategy. It's not for everyone. I wouldn't buy a gold phone and somebody's, I lose it or somebody steals it. Oh man, that will be heartbreaking, right? So yeah, so I'm giving you just an example of Michael Porter when he speaks about niche. It's like, say, a custom-made Rolls-Royce, or a custom-made Maserati or a limited edition Maserati. Now, these are examples of focus strategy. A few pieces of that, you buy it or you leave it, because they're handcrafted, a very limited edition. There may be 10 or 15 of those kind that will be manufactured. The price will be extremely high because it's a niche. It's not there, not available everywhere. Not large numbers are available. Why do you buy it? Not just for functionality, but it's a showpiece. It carries off your status. It's a symbol, right, that you want to showcase. That's what you are. And that's what we call as focus strategy. Stuck in the middle, you want to be differentiated, but you want to also give cost benefit. That's what is the stuck in the middle. Say Lexus, Lexus brand of cars, right? They're not like the most expensive Ferraris and Maseratis and Rolls-Royce, but they're not also cheap. They're not like the other, say, Japanese models of Toyota and other company cars, like Honda or General Motors and companies, models from these companies. But they're high-end. They give you high-end features for the best possible price. That's why they're stuck in the middle. They're not Maseratis, or they're not limited edition Rolls-Royce, but they're not also as cheap as some of the other, Japanese car models or stuff like that. They're somewhere in the middle. They're high-end features for the best price possible. That's what we call as stuck in the middle. So these are the four broad, competitive strategy framework that Michael Porter talked about. Then I move off to, as I explained this in a brief while ago, that strategies can be at the functional level. Research and development can have its own department of research and development, can have its own strategy. Manufacturing can have its own strategy. Should we go for robotic manufacturing? Should we replace human elements in the assembly line, use robotic manufacturing? Robots are involved big time in manufacturing. That's a strategy. Marketing. So how many marketing staff? Do we do advertising? How many sales? How do we train the sales staff? HR, how many people we require, in which departments? Should we downsize? Should we right size? These are strategies. Finance, should we actually raise money? Should we cut costs? Should we improve our profitability? Should we allocate resources more, diligently? These strategies. So functions, each function can have its own strategy. Broadly classifying strategic weapons, customer service. If you have great customer service, how many of you think Apple has great customer service?
I do.
Yeah, so
This whole pandemic, they have people basically waiting outside their store and taking orders and stuff like that.
right. And
Pretty neat.
Samsung, because I'm a Samsung fanboy, I'll tell you, Samsung offered free replacement of broken screens for their phones, free repairs for doctors, for nurses, for frontline workers, for those emergency workers, for those in-person employees. They gave them free replacement for their broken screens and free services. So I know customer service is a great weapon, and I'm sure Samsung took a lesson from what Apple does. Employee skills and loyalty, a great strategic weapon. Innovation. How many of you think Apple is not innovating as quickly as other companies like Huawei, Xiaomi, even Samsung? So see,
They're not innovating as fast as they used to. I'll tell you right now.
So I think their strategic weapon was innovation, maybe not as much now. Huawei is coming up with a second iteration of foldable phone. Xiaomi is coming out with a phone which can be stretched. The screen can be stretched into a tablet. I don't know. LG is planning to do something similar because LG is the one company which supplies screens to Apple, to Xiaomi, to Huawei. LG is a manufacturer of OLED screens. They're this Korean company which is doing extremely good in terms of screens. Quality is a strategic weapon. There's no, compromise on that. Quality is an extremely important function. Social media, it's a weapon that you can use. Big data. Amazon uses big data in a large way. Every time you open a social media account of yours, Amazon is throwing, are you interested in this? You are looking for this. Would you want to buy this? How? Because they're collecting data of your past purchases. They know exactly what were the searches that you did in the past. And then they link it up with your Facebook, for your Insta, for your other social media accounts, because Amazon is using that big data to find out when do you buy stuff, what is that interests you, what were the stuff that you were searching. Nice weapons, strategic weapons. We go off to the next learning objective for today's class. I know this class has been long. Yeah, but that's about goal setting and planning. I spoke about it, so I don't want to repeat myself. Goals can be financial goals or strategic goals. Financial goals are, say, particular X percentage of profitability or X percentage of increase in earnings per share or cutting down costs and stuff like that. Strategic goals can be diversification, concentration, expansion, vertical integration, horizontal integration, which we described above. So that's what it is. Traditional goal setting goes from the top to down. Top management, this is a funny example. The top management saying, we need to improve company's performance. The middle level manager is saying, I want to see significant improvement in the division's profits. And then the department level manager says, increase profits regardless of the means. He doesn't care. And the last guy says, don't worry, worry about quality, just work fast. I mean, this is a funny example. So it flows from the top. Not the best example, but they put the ironic way of how planning can go wrong. Management by objectives. Peter Drucker talked about this. This is another way of creating objectives and goals for your company. So management by objective says goals must be specific. I cannot determine your goals. We should do it together. That means the leader, the manager should talk to his employees before setting goals. There should be a time frame, otherwise goals are meaningless. You should get feedback, specific feedback, so that you know what you're doing and you know what to focus on. So that's management by objectives. And well-written goals are called as SMART goals. SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. SMART, S stands for specific, M for measurable, attainable, A for attainable, R for relevant, and T is time-bound. So goals Should be measurable, quantifiable, time frame should be there, attainable, they should be written, and they should be communicated. It should be clear for everyone. That's about goals. So we're talking of goal setting, review the mission. I told you about that. Evaluate what resources, determine goals individually with taking inputs from everyone. They're written, they're communicated. Create feedback mechanisms to say, are you doing good on your goals? Should you need some support? Do you have some challenges that we might want to address? And of course, incentivize. You need to reward. If somebody does really great, well, what's the incentive? What's the reward? What is the reinforcement? What is the recognition? What is the promotion opportunities? What is the career progression? Types of goals, plans that we talked about, strategic or long-term, tactical or operational goals. I mean, strategies or plans are short-term. Strategic, plans give you a sense of direction. Tactical, plans are very specific. Strategic are single use, and tactical are standing plans, basically. Yeah, another way of looking at plans, strategic is done by the top management, more of strategic planning. They do a little bit of operational planning, and middle level, they do a equal measure of strategic and operational. Strategic is in this color, operational is in this color. So middle level is like the bridge. So they're doing equal amounts of strategic planning as much as operational planning. When you get down to the lowest level in the company, they're more into operational planning. They don't do that much of strategic planning, because strategic planning is for the top management and the middle level to do more. I think you understand that, because this is operational, this is implementation, this is actual work that's being done. So the traditional approach is top down. It actually cascades from the top. Another approach is developed by organizational members. You call in people, you talk to them, you get inputs from every person, single person in the organization. So it's driven from the down. Very difficult to do if it's a large organization, but you can do it. Then what are the contemporary issues in planning? We go here. So because the environment is changing so dramatically, you got to be very cautious about how you plan. That means you need to scan the environment, collect data, say both political and economic and social setting, what's happening. Look at what's happening between US and China. Has the policy changed because of President Joe Biden? And is the policy going to change towards China? Is it going to be better with Europe? Is it going to be stronger with India? So those things are way beyond companies, but they have an impact. And what does the social setting happen? How do people react to these changes at the political level, economic level? And because of the COVID, how are people thinking about moving between countries? Does that affect our business? So there are many things that we have to be always on the lookout. Environmental scanning is always required. Anthony talked about looking at the environment, looking at possible opportunities. That is environmental scanning at his own level, for his own jobs, for his own career. So companies have to do it. Individuals, we have to do it. So I think I just finished off, the planning process, the types of strategies, and how contemporary issues can be handled really well. So that finishes off our chapter for today.